These are the dispense instructions for brewers with a BrewKeg10, our combined conical fermenter and keg. This product allows a brewer to ferment, carbonate, clarify and dispense a beverage all from the one vessel. 12 to 24 hours after the second beer clarification, a third layer of sediment will have fallen into the bottle. Williams Worn cider will be ready for dispense 6 hours after the cooling is put on, as it doesn't require clarification and the yeast should settle in that time. For beer, above the third sediment layer, you should see an area of clear beer, although some of the sediment may extend up into the valve, as seen in these examples of the lager and ale we've just clarified. The next step is to close the vessel butterfly valve and disconnect the gas line from the gas input on the lid. Then take the brew keg out of the kegerator or fridge and take it to a sink or drain. Then remove the sediment bottle. It screws off clockwise looking down on it. Dump the sediment, rinse the bottle well with water, and then rinse the butterfly valve with some water too. Then put the sediment bottle back on the butterfly valve, but leave the valve shut. The sediment bottle here is acting as a safety mechanism in case someone opens a valve accidentally during the dispense period. Then put the keg back in the kegerator or fridge and connect the CO2 supply grey fitting back onto the gas import on the lid. Then connect the black fitting of your draft beer tap to the beverage output on the lid. The beverage is now ready for dispense, so open the draft tap to allow flow of the final product into a glass and enjoy your brew. It should be cold, clear, perfectly carbonated, just like any professional beverage on the market. If you're using two BrewKeg10s in a fridge like this setup and you only have one draft beer tap, then you will need to move it over to the other brew keg to enjoy that product. Otherwise, you can just buy a second portable plastic draft beer line. If you have a Williams Worn kegerator, then you will connect the beverage out quick disconnect fitting to the beverage out port, which feeds up into the font and the draft beverage tap. The Williams Worn kegerator has two draft beverage taps, so you can pour two different types of beverages out of two brew kegs at the same time. The kegerator has the advantage over a fridge that to pour a beverage you don't need to open the door with the subsequent loss of cold air, as the beverage taps are on the outside of the refrigerator. A Williams Worn kegerator has taps with a flow control lever on the side, and the closed positions are both fully up and fully down. When it is fully closed, nothing will flow. So open it to your personal preference every time you pull the handle and pour a beverage. And as mentioned in the previous video, step 3, adjust. Beers and cider typically range from 3 to 8 grams per litre CO2 as their carbonation level. And serving temperatures also have a range depending on the style, and we've targeted 1 degree Celsius because New Zealanders, Australians and Americans like cold beer. And as mentioned in that video, Williams Worn brewers tend to like quite highly carbonated beers, so we've targeted 6.4 grams per litre in a brew keg at 1 degree Celsius, which means, as you can see on this graph, we need a pressure of 1.1 bar during dispense. So that's why we set 1.1 bar pressure on the low pressure gauge on our CO2 supply regulator. If you find this high carbonation level is a little bit too high for your personal preference, or you're getting a little bit too much foam out of the draft beer tap, then for your next brews, just target a lower dispense pressure. For example, 0.9 bar will give you 5.8 grams per litre carbon dioxide. So that is what you would set on the low pressure gauge on your CO2 supply. And then, as it states here in the notes, during fermentation, set your VPRV to release at about 0.4 bar higher than the dispense pressure you've chosen, to allow for a pressure drop during cooling and to have a little excess carbonation in the beer before clarification. And also, when you press the button on the VPRV to reduce the pressure in the vessel before you dose in the clarification agent, lower the vessel pressure to 0.5 bar lower than the dispense pressure you might be choosing from this table to be able to force the agent into the beer. And please note, if you prefer a warmer beverage temperature at dispense, for the same amount of carbonation you need more pressure. So choose the amount of carbonation you want and use the graph shown previously to set the dispense pressure you need. If you like the level of carbonation that 1.1 bar gives you at 1 degree Celsius, but would like a warmer beer, a simple rule of thumb is to try 1.2 bar at 2 degrees, or 1.3 bar at 3 degrees, 1.4 bar at 4 degrees, or 1.5 bar at 5 degrees. This works well for those who like a high carbonation level, and it will not result in foaming of the beer out the tap when the beer is poured. If you find your beverage is over carbonated to your personal taste, or maybe over foaming through your beverage tap system, Then put the pressure gauge back on and open the VPRV up to a lower pressure and let it stand overnight. This will reduce the carbonation level. If you're short of time, you could try shaking the keg a little bit to help force the CO2 out of the beverage. Once it's ready, you can enjoy your beverage directly from the fridge or the kegerator, or there are a couple of other options. You can bottle a beverage using our counter-pressure bottle filler, as seen in this instructional video on Vimeo. Just follow the instructions where it explains how to bottle from a Cornelius keg, because the ports on the top of a brew keg are the same as that on a Corny keg. You can also transfer the beverage into a Cornelius keg, and the general principles are shown on this video in Vimeo. You will need a BrewKeg combined Corny keg filling set and a Cornelius keg itself. These types of kegs can also be dispensed from a fridge or a kegerator. In any case, happy brewing and cheers!